Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Arise News, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. And now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. Of course, let's bring in our guest analyst Sunday, who are Group News Editor, Leadership newspaper. He joins us live in the studio. Thank you so much for your time, for joining us. Maybe we should begin with the newspaper of record. Talking about this day, and the big one there screaming loud there is Tinubu approves more air asset to tackle insurgency. Some of the riders now say that others military to intensify counter-terrorism operations, meet CDS service chiefs. Military warns against misinformation, recirculation of old footage. Tinubu approves more air asset to tackle insurgency. And once again, some of the riders orders military to intensify counter-terrorism operations, meet CDS and service chiefs. Military warns against misinformation and circulation of old footages. And of course, when we take a look at this particular headline, it will seem that the president's approval is coming. Of course, we know that it's coming again amid the escalating insecurity in the northwestern part of the central region. Of course, this is the video earlier we saw also talked about the fact that the CDS said they've reinforced. The army has been reinforced with equipment such as aircraft and all of that. So let me come to you, Sunday. Perhaps this is a sustainable solution or just a short-term tactical, because some will say, look, how does this tie into military funding priorities and the defense budget transparency?
When it comes to security, I think every well-meaning Nigerian must take it very seriously. And the president, since coming to power, he has shown that he is after securing life and properties of Nigerians. And for him to have increased funding for the military, acquiring some military assets, I think is commendable. But then we must go beyond military assets. This is a war that have been on for about 15 years. And it is very clear that it's not just for having equipment to execute the war. We have to look at other areas. What makes this war sustainable for the past 15 years? These are non-state actors. So we have to look at the area where these non-actors are getting funding from. Where are they getting the funding to execute all this war that they have been carrying on for the past 15 years? We have to ensure that we follow this up, and anyone found culpable funding this set of people that are trying to make our country ungovernable should be dealt with. Even if it is foreign machineries or whatever they are, I think we have to look inward and ensure that we protect our integrity, because our military are capable, our military are doing well. So it goes beyond the assets. We have to.
Because I like the fact that the military, our military are doing well. When you talk about intelligence, we have it. When you talk about, the capability, we have it. But one wonders what exactly, is going on with the fight against insurgency. And like you rightly pointed out, that perhaps there are other, machineries. And like the old CDS has said, is that there are mercenaries outside this country. So the question now would be, if we know and we have identified that there are mercenaries, foreign mercenaries funding terrorism within our own country, what do we have to do? So it shouldn't take us time. There shouldn't be emotional attachment in fighting, these people. So what's your take on that?
Yes, there is no country that live in isolation. And that's why we have all these international organizations where we can go there and lay our complaints about what is happening to our country. Because now, for example, if you realize that these non-state actors are using weapons produced in country A or country B, all you need to do is to approach this country. We are seeing this equipment. How did they get to the hands of non-state actors? What should be done in order to cut these non-actors off this kind of weapons? So I think funding, ensuring that we discover where these fundings are coming from. Yes, and the support, yes, these non-state actors are getting.
Let's move away from this and take a look at some other newspaper now. Saturday Punch now, the biggest story, similar story, of course, insecurity. Stop sacrificing our children. Parents of military personnel tell FG. None of my relatives will join the army. That's coming from Widow. Defense chief blames porous borders to jihadist invasion. Borders, of course, I have to talk about the immigration and those in charge of the borders, the customs and all of that. That, of course, is something that we need to look at. Well, I think that's just the major headline on the front page of the Punch. But if you look at it particularly, this very, it looks like, when there is a relationship that I want to believe in terms of welfare of those affected. Because if you listen to that headlines, the widow's talking about, none of her relative will become a soldier ever again. That shows some sort of emotional breakdown. Speak to that as well in terms of prioritizing the welfare of these soldiers and those affected.
Yes, one thing parents or relatives should know about the military is that the job is about sacrifice.
Right.
So yes, when you sacrifice yourself, to fight, to defend the territorial integrity of your nation, all you need to do is to give them the moral support. And that doesn't mean that the authorities should not take care of the welfare of those who are in the war front. Of course, we know that the government have been giving them the priority, but more needs to be done. But then, as Nigerians, we have to be patriotic. Because when it comes to security, we should not politicize it. The job of a security man, whether the military, the police, any security agency, it requires patriotism. If you are not patriotic, you have no business joining the military.
I think there's also a question of whether is the government doing enough. So maybe we should bring a balance that, okay, now that we talk about being patriotic, I mean, we also need to bring about the aspect where the government should do enough for these soldiers, especially the fallen heroes and those who are left behind, the survivors. What do you have to say?
I think it's a good call, because in some countries you will see veterans are being taken care of. I know I was in China recently, and I know how the country have been taking care of their veterans. They don't need to look for food and all that. They just have some card where they get to any available point. They have access to food and all that. Then also they have some communities built for these ex-servicemen where they can maybe after their retirement they can settle there and all that. So we need to emulate these kind of things, ensuring that their welfare is taken care of, ensuring that after retirement you have a decent house to live. So this should be something that the authorities in the military should look at.
Let's move quickly at it. Take a look at the Guardian. Guardian is next here. The biggest one, Nigeria. Why Nigeria's strategic grain reserves can't boost food security. Let me take some other headlines then. Of course, we'll focus on our discussion. Military will be fully equipped to defeat insecurity. That's coming from Tinubu. Page 2, you can get the details of that particular story. And then, of course, this one talked about the fact that Nigeria's legal system crumbling under corruption, ethics, violations, says Oshibaji. That's coming from the vice president. But that's not our focus. 2027 between PDP's hope for implosion of APC and need for proper introspection. But let's get to a major particular headline that we'll be focusing, which talk about the issue of a grain reserve, why Nigeria's strategic grain reserves can't boost food security. And if you look at it, Nigeria has about 33 strategic food reserves, but 17 were concession to private entities, leaving about 16 for the government strategic purposes. However, as of 2023, only 6 of these government-managed reserves were operational. Well, of course, the government also possesses about 51 warehouses, bringing the total combined storage capacity to 1.3 million. So the question will be, what's wrong with the grain reserve system? Is it poor storage, infrastructure, corruption, or weak policy? And if you look at it again, how does this contribute or impact the prices of food in the market?
Yeah,
Sunday.
Yeah, if we take care of our grain reserve, I think it will reduce the price of food in the market. The government declared a state of emergency on food security, and for about 2 years now, we have not seen the desired result. We have 2 ministers in the Ministry of Agriculture. We also have a minister which is in charge of livestock and all that. But all these things, you begin to wonder, what has been their plan? What are they doing in order to boost this food security? You realize that the world is changing, but our farmers, we still rely in the old ways of farming. Local farmers are not using technology for farming, which could boost food security, which will increase yield. But when it comes to issue of food, people will be saying, oh, this is GMOs. They so much, demonize genetically modified food as if, they are not good. But if you go in depth, if our farmers can do more research with these GMOs, I'm telling you, we can boost our food security, because you don't need to continue doing the old ways of farming and expect that you have a lot of food on the table. Then insecurity also is also playing
I think
its roles.
maybe the government needs to declare another state of emergency, if I may put it that way, because if we have one state of emergency, and like you've rightly said, how effective has it been? If you have not seen much of that impact, maybe the government needs to say, okay, you know what, let's declare another state of emergency. But perhaps this time it will yield result. But let's quickly look at some other newspaper. Weekend Trust, addict rot as drug business thrives in Abuja. Some of the writers here says, if I don't take drug, I could strip naked, coming from X-Bank. I think this is more like an exclusive story finding by the Daily Trust newspaper. Young Nigerians under burden of hypertension. You can pick up the copy of Trust, Weekend Trust, and get the details of that. But let's quickly look at other stories now. Why poverty will remain. Talking about the Saturday Vanguard. Let's head to Vanguard now. Why poverty will remain with us. Doguwa, longest serving northern lawmakers. You may want to get the details of that when you pick up the Vanguard newspaper. Insecurity, CDS blames renewed attack on porous border. Let's move away from that now. That's much we can take from the front page of the Vanguard. But Saturday Telegraph is next. The terrorist use of drones, the biggest story there. Terrorist use of drones. Federal government developing new defense capability strategies to counter threats. That's coming from sources. Another story there says not has to solve its own problems. That's coming from Ahmed. Says Tinubu will be seen as father of new Nigeria if it doesn't run in 2027. But let's take the focus from Daily Telegraph, Saturday Telegraph, which says PDP crisis, Damagun engaged in double standard to blame for secretaryship in Brolio as cause of party members defect to APC in Oshogbo. I think we need to dwell on this particular story. It seems that the PDP is dealing with internal power struggles, and of course, Maru Damagun, of course, it's been accused of favoritism and political manipulation, particularly over who controls the national secretary's position, and this is tied to the ongoing zoning and regional representation battle, especially between the north and south. So is this power tussle a sign of deeper existential challenges in the PDP, especially ahead of 2027? Quickly before we head to the foreign.
Yeah, the crisis concerning the PDP National Secretary office is, I think, is beyond Damagun, because these are offices that are zoned to regions, and the office of the PDP National Secretary is an office that should come from the southeast. Right. And so if you look at the politics in the southeast, they are facing a lot of internal crisis. There is disagreements and all that. So I think they may not find a solution to that office until the PDP decide to do otherwise, because the people involved, they are very powerful, and they may not want to let this crisis be resolved, because none of them want to concede defeat, and it has been affecting the party. So it's beyond the national chairman.
So you are saying that we have not, maybe the problem is just beginning, except they put their house in order.
Yeah.
Perhaps ahead of, but again, they are positioning themselves as an alternative to APC and other political parties ahead of 2027. So how are they going to survive this?
Well, even the members of the PDP, they know that when it comes to national politics, they are so disintegrated. They are not working as a team. So they may have some states they are holding. They may have some senatorial district that they are holding. But when it comes to national politics, there is so much interest that even within their members, they are working against themselves. So for 2027, they may not be able to, give it a very good fight. So except maybe the coalition, work out some modalities, but the coalition may not realize its plans in the PDP, because the PDP itself is actually fighting itself, and then you now have other interest group coming into the party. Then I think there will be a big problem. So at the national level, I think they should look inward, because from the look of things, they may not be able to, give the APC the needed fight that Nigerians expected.
Let's head to foreign now and take a look at foreign newspapers and take a look at Daily Express. Finally, some sense door opens on fuel pay Uturn, and perhaps that's talking just a bit of Sakia Stama, which of course says it has opened the door to an embarrassing Uturn over cut the winter fuel payment. I don't know if you went through this particular head.
Yeah, there is so much anger by the UK resident concerning the Labour Party. Most of them expect that the Labour Party cut down the prices of fuel, and so they've not get that done, and they are spending a lot when it comes to fuel. But then, if the Labour Party can reverse itself and cut down the prices of fuel, I think the people, will now, have a sense of support, for the Labour Party, because the Labour Party need the citizen support, but the citizens also, they want the Labour Party to cut down the prices of fuel. So the Labour Party needs to have a U-turn.
There needs to have a U-turn. Okay, I think we just have to leave it there. Of course, the group news editor, leadership newspaper, Sunday Isua, it's been a pleasure having you on the newspaper review on Daybreak. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Yeah.